नमस्कार। हम हैं आदित्य और सौम्या।
और आपका स्वागत है घटना चक्र के इस नए और ज्ञानवर्धक सफर में।
Today on the deep dive, we're digging into something absolutely fundamental to life, but maybe something you don't think about every day. Nitrogen fixation.
It sounds technical, maybe, but it's huge.
Totally. And we started this whole exploration with a really interesting question from our sources. It was, if the number of nitrogen-fixing organisms in an ecosystem just plummeted, what's the very first process that gets hit?
And it's a great question because the answer, it really highlights how interconnected everything is. You know, how these tiny microbial actions ripple outwards.
Affecting ecosystems, economies, the whole deal.
Exactly. And the immediate answer, well, it might not be what most people jump to first. You might think crops instantly fail or something really large scale.
Yeah, something visible.
Right. But understanding that first domino, the immediate effect, it tells you so much about how biological systems are fundamentally wired. So we'll get into the science, sure, but also connected all the way up to farming, the global economy, even sustainability.
Okay, so let's tackle that central question head on then from the source material. What's the first thing hit if those nitrogen-fixing organisms disappear?
The answer is protein synthesis.
Protein synthesis, okay.
Yeah, and the key is why that's the immediate primary impact.
Explain that a bit.
Well, basically, all life needs nitrogen compounds. Things like ammonia, nitrates. They're the essential building blocks for amino acids.
And amino acids make proteins.
Exactly. Proteins do everything. Enzymes, structures, they're the workhorses. So if nitrogen fixation stops, that's the process making nitrogen available. Plants can't get that crucial nitrogen.
Makes sense.
And without nitrogen, they simply cannot build proteins. So that process right at the base of the food web, it just grinds to a halt.
Okay, but hold on. What about other big processes like the CO2 cycle or photosynthesis or even just the flow of energy? Why aren't they the first hit?
That's a really good point because obviously they're all critical, but think about it. The CO2 cycle, photosynthesis, they're fundamentally carbon-based.
Right, CO2, carbon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, nitrogen is important for photosynthesis. Sure, it's in chlorophyll, for instance, but its absence isn't the absolute first bottleneck the way it is for protein synthesis
Okay.
and energy flow. That's more downstream. I mean, if you can't build the protein machinery needed for metabolism, then yeah, energy flow will eventually suffer. But protein synthesis is where that direct, immediate need for nitrogen shows up first. It's the initial domino.
Got it. So if you can't build the basic machinery, then nothing else runs properly. If protein synthesis fails right there in the plants, the whole structure built on top of that, animals, agriculture, it starts to wobble pretty quickly.
So that's the micro-level impact, disrupting the absolute basics. But then scaling that up. If plants can't make protein, the ripple effect must be huge for our food system, for the economy. This isn't just biology lab stuff. Oh, absolutely not. It's massive economically. When you look bigger picture, this tiny biological process has enormous financial weight. Like there's a recent industry IRS report. It estimates the market for nitrogen-fixing biofertilizers could hit, get this, $1.9 billion by 2031.
Wow, 1.9 billion.
Yeah, and growing fast, like a 9.4% compound annual growth rate projected between 2025 and 2031.
That kind of growth in biofertilizers, well, it definitely signals a shift is happening. Why the big move? Is it just about being green? Our source mentioned farmers are increasingly using these as part of sustainable agriculture.
That's a huge driver. Sustainability, definitely. But it's also about the bottom line and, frankly, the environmental headaches from synthetic fertilizers. The costs are rising. There are concerns about pollution.
Right.
Because, you know, at the same time, the FAO, that's the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, they've actually warned that because biological fixation isn't keeping pace, we're getting more reliant on synthetics.
Which sort of creates a feedback loop, doesn't it?
It does. And it forces us to ask, okay, what are the real consequences of leaning so heavily on these manufactured alternatives?
So beyond just the price tag on a bag of fertilizer, what are those consequences?
Well, there are quite a few. Manufacturing synthetic fertilizer, especially using the Haber-Bosch process, that's the main industrial method for making ammonia, is incredibly energy intensive. That means significant greenhouse gas emissions just to make the stuff.
Okay, so climate impact right there.
Definitely. And then there's the downstream stuff, fertilizer runoff getting into rivers and oceans, causing algal blooms, dead zones. It's a major pollution issue. Plus, over-reliance can actually harm the natural soil microbes over time.
So it's kind of a double whammy, energy use up front, pollution afterwards.
Pretty much. It highlights why finding and boosting natural solutions is so critical. It's not just about being eco-friendly, it's about long-term efficiency and resilience too.
We've seen the impact then. Huge stakes. But let's go back to the source. Who are these microscopic powerhouses actually doing the work, these nitrogen fixers? And how do they even manage it?
Right, the unsung heroes. It's mainly microorganisms, bacteria mostly. Some are free-living in the soil, like Azotobacter. Others are famous for partnering up with plants, like Rhizobium. They form those little nodules on the roots of legumes.
Legumes, like peas and beans.
Exactly. Peas, beans, clover, alfalfa, that kind of thing. And then you also have some cyanobacteria. You might know them as blue-green algae, like Anabina and Nostoc. They can do it too.
So a few different groups doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and the process itself, it's called diazotrophy,
Diazotrophy, okay.
which literally means nitrogen eating, or maybe more accurately, converting nitrogen, taking nitrogen gas from the air, which is super abundant, but unusable for most life.
Right, N2 gas is very stable.
Very stable, and they use this incredible enzyme called nitrogenase to break that strong triple bond in N2 and convert it into ammonia, NH3, which plants can use.
That enzyme must be pretty special.
It is truly remarkable. It's an elegant, natural solution that's underpinned ecosystems for millions of years.
It really is amazing how nature figured this out. But how robust are these natural systems today? I mean, can we realistically boost them enough to really cut back on synthetic fertilizers globally?
That's the big question, isn't it? They are robust, they've sustained life forever. The challenge now is, can we understand them well enough to sort of enhance them, work with them more effectively in modern agriculture?
Okay, so let's bring it down to earth. What does it actually look like when there isn't enough nitrogen? Say you're a farmer, or even just, looking at your garden plants. What are the signs? If my basil plant starts looking sad and yellow, could that be it?
It absolutely could, yeah. On a farm scale, the obvious risk is lower crop yields, big drops, and over time, the soil itself loses fertility.
Makes sense.
But for individual plants, like your basil, the signs are pretty clear. You'll often see yellowing leaves, especially older ones first. That's called chlorosis.
Chlorosis, because of chlorophyll.
Exactly. Nitrogen is a key part of the chlorophyll molecule, the green pigment plants use for photosynthesis. No nitrogen, not enough chlorophyll, so the leaves turn yellow.
Okay, that's a clear visual cue.
And you'll also just see stunted growth. The plant just doesn't thrive, doesn't get big and bushy. It's a direct sign that a fundamental building block is missing. Because remember, nitrogen, along with sulfur, are the main nutrients needed to make proteins. No proteins, no growth.
Right. It all circles back to that initial point about protein synthesis.
It really does. Now, zooming out again, thinking globally, it's useful to remember there are these two main ways nitrogen gets fixed. There's the biological way we've been talking about with the microbes.
Right. Rhizobium, Azotobacter.
Yeah, and then there's the chemical, industrial way, primarily, that Haber-Bosch process we mentioned.
Creating synthetic ammonia.
Correct. And this distinction, biological versus chemical, it's really important when you look at global goals and initiatives. Think about the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 2 is zero hunger. And a key target within that goal is promoting sustainable agriculture, including better nutrient management, often leaning towards organic or biological sources. Why? Because it reduces reliance on those energy-hungry, potentially polluting synthetic inputs.
So it ties directly into food security and sustainability.
Directly. And similarly, there are global efforts like the UNEP's International Nitrogen Management System, the INS. Its whole purpose is trying to get a handle on nitrogen pollution worldwide, which comes from both making the synthetic stuff and from using it inefficiently on farms.
It's just incredible how this one microbial process, nitrogen fixation, threads through everything from soil health to global food policy and environmental protection.
It really is foundational.
So we've gone from that initial question, what breaks first without nitrogen fixers, which was protein synthesis, right up to its massive impact on agriculture, the economy, and planetary health. It's a stark reminder. What happens at the smallest scale echoes everywhere.
Absolutely. And, when we weigh up enhancing natural nitrogen fixation versus relying on industrial methods, it's complex. But you can't ignore the huge environmental footprint of synthetic fertilizers, the energy used, the pollution created. It makes finding and boosting natural solutions feel less like a nice to have and more like an absolute necessity, both economically and ecologically.
A critical imperative, really.
Yeah. So maybe the thought to leave everyone with is this. We've got a growing global population, a massive need for sustainable food production. How big a role can enhancing natural nitrogen fixation play in feeding the future? And maybe more pointedly, what are the hidden long-term costs if we don't reduce our dependence on the industrial alternatives?
Really powerful questions, ones that definitely need more attention. We hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought about the incredible hidden world of microbes and how vital they are. Keep an eye on these topics. They're unfolding right now and shaping the world we live in.